You're allergic to pineapple? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Why are you eating it so often?
Jordan loves
Are you building your
pineapple.
tolerance? You probably are actually building your tolerance.
I'm gonna my
Oh, that was great.
I'm not
Kind of
allergic
like
to
if
pineapple.
you drink snake
I
venom
find out she was allergic to
and
pineapple.
you become immune to snakes.
Good. Alrighty. Today we're doing what's called combined variation. So we will start with direct and indirect variation. This is what you've learned before in algebra, but we're going to go over it again. Please write the equation for direct variation. Y equals kx. K is like a constant, yep. If you think about this equation, which you're familiar with, if I were to graph this, what would it look like?
Linear.
A line. Notice it's very similar. There's a multiplication by the x. There is no b value, or you don't see it. If I don't see it, does that mean it's an imaginary 1 or an imaginary 0? 0. If it was a 1, you would see it. So essentially, these are linear equations that all have a y-intercept of 0. Let's write down linear. You can write also that it will always go through the origin, but you don't have to. Those graphs are linear. I'm going to take this equation, I'm going to rewrite it and solve it for x. Oh, sorry, solve it for k. If I want to get k by itself, it's being multiplied by x. I divide by x. The only time we ever use this is if I give you a table of values and you don't want to graph the table, and I say, is this table of x and y values a direct variation? Well, what you could do is you could take every y divided by every x, and if you get the same constant every time, it's yes. If y divided by x is 3, y divided by x is 3, and y divided by x is 3, you keep getting the same constant value when you do y divided by x, you know it's direct variation. But this is the general equation we use. Indirect, or some call it inverse variation, is this. Y equals k over x. Let me give you a generic one. Let's say I have this. Let's say my constant is 4. Is that going to be linear? You guys know how to graph this. This is a parent function. Do you remember what that looks like? What would the 4 do to that graph? Vertical stretch. So this is definitely not linear. You can write down not linear. You can write what it would look like. Just the main thing is to know it's not linear. Sometimes we also solve this one for k. Not a big part of our lesson. If I want k by itself, I'll have to multiply both sides by x. Okay, the only time you would use this maybe is if I said, here's a table. And I say, is this represent a direct or indirect variation? You could take x times y. X times y is 6. Is x times y 6? No. So they don't all have the same constant. So you know it's not indirect. If you took every y divided by x and you got the same constant, that would be direct. If not, you would say it is neither, which, what do you guys think for that one? Neither. That won't be part of what we're doing, but I know in Algebra 1, I think in Algebra 1 it might be something that you've done before. All right, write and solve an inverse variation equation for each problem. Number 3, y varies inversely as x when x is 5, y is 10. Find y when x is 8. Again, if you did this in science or something similar and you have a different way to do it, I'm okay with that. If it's it's less work, that's fine. I'm gonna teach it the way that we normally teach it in math, which is this. One sentence at a time. As soon as it says y varies inversely as x, I write the inverse equation. And I have a lot of numbers. Not all the numbers that I read go together. The numbers in this sentence go together. When x is 5, y is 10. I'm going to put those numbers into my equation. When x is 5, y is 10. That information leaves me with one variable. So let's solve for our constant k. Being divided by 5, so I multiply by 5. $50 is my constant. What I usually have students do from here is I have them rewrite this now with their constant of 50. And then the final sentence, find y when x is 18. See, I can type it in my calculator. I know it's divided by 2. I'm just going to leave my answer like this because it's exact. We go through one more time the steps. It says it varies inversely, so I write the inverse equation. I take the numbers that go together and I put them in my equation to solve for k. Once I have k, I rewrite my equation with k. Then I answer the final follow-up question, which is what would y be if x is 18? I solve from there. Questions?
Why are these lessons so easy?
I don't know. Because you've done them before. I don't like 4, so we're going to skip 4. Let's go to 5. Boyle's law says that volume of a gas in a closed container at constant temperature is inversely, I would underline, inversely proportional to the pressure of the gas. Whenever I hear inversely, I'm write this equation, the inverse. Now, it would be a good idea to label the variables appropriately. So we're not really dealing with y and x. We're dealing with volume of a gas in a closed container at constant temperature varies inversely proportional to pressure. So volume, and whatever it's varying inversely with goes on the bottom. So it's varying inversely with pressure. What do we do with temperature here? Did you have something? It's constant, so we don't have to deal with it. It's good to know that they tell us that, but the temperature is not changing. So that is not a variable that we need to worry about because it remains the same temperature in this case. All right, let's go with the next sentence. Suppose 5 liters, that's volume, of a gas are at a pressure of 2 atmospheres. Volume 5, pressure 2. Solve for K. Rewrite your equation with that K value you have. And we use our new K value to find our next piece of information. What is the volume when the pressure is 3 atmospheres? So I type in 10 divided by 3, and I'm going to leave it as a fraction. 10/3 is what it simplifies to. Questions on that one? Okay. Let's fill in some blanks. The combined variation. We haven't done combined yet. We've done direct. We've done indirect. Combined variation. Here we go. Combined variation occurs when a variable varies directly with one variable and inversely with another. Combined variation is written in the form y equals kx over z. Where the constant of variation is k. Y varies directly with x. That's why it's on the top. If it varies directly with somebody, it goes on the top. If it varies inversely with something, that's what goes on the bottom. Last paragraph. Boyle's law results in an inverse variation as long as the temperature is constant. However, if both the pressure and the temperature vary, then the relationship between the volume, pressure, and temperature of a gas can be represented as combined variation. This relationship is referred to as the combined gas law and states that the volume of a gas in a closed container varies directly with temperature. You might want to underline directly with temperature and inversely with pressure. That helps you know where the variables go. So I'm essentially using this, but I have a specific variable as pressure, temperature, volume. So I start with volume. Anything that varies directly goes on the top. So it's going to be K directly with temperature. So temperature goes on the top. Inversely with pressure. Inverse goes on the bottom. Again, if you do it a different way in science and can get it right, I'm okay with that. This is the way we usually go about it when teaching it, at least for the first time in algebra. I'm going to rewrite this equation at the top of the next page for notes. Go ahead and flip to your next page. Volume equals KT over P. We will do these just like the first page. We will find K, and then we will solve for whatever variable we need. Here we go. If 2 liters of a gas have a pressure of 1500 torr, and a temperature of 300 kelvins, what is the volume of the temperature? What is the volume when the temperature is 600 kelvins and the pressure is 750 torr? We don't need to know that yet. We're just going to get started with the numbers that go together. 2 liters is volume. We don't know constant. Temperature was 300. Pressure, 1500 torr. Solve for K. Questions so far? I get a K of 10, so I'm going to rewrite my equation with a 10 for K.
There's no like conversions.
Oh, no, you don't have to. As long as they stay the same. So like this is in torr and this is still in torr, which they will be. I don't know if in science they give you other ones, but if the volume is always the same and the pressure always stays the same, you're good. Ah, nice. So we have, what is the volume then when the temperature is 600 and the pressure is 750 torr? what would be your label on volume? Yes, liters. Is the way you learned in science quicker than this?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Use that if you're good at that. If you don't know what I'm talking about or you didn't understand in science, this is one way to do it also.
I don't think of them as science.
Okay.
I took science. Oh, no. Your girl's chilling in physical science. It's so easy.
All right, let's do 5. 5 is not Boyle's law. It's just regular, direct, and indirect without labels. So it says y varies directly as x and inversely as z. So where do they go? Y varies directly as x, which means x goes on the top. Inversely as z, that means z goes on the bottom.
How do we know where K goes?
K always goes at the top.
Like every time?
Yep.
Forever.
Yes. And then 1 sentence at a time, plug in the numbers that go together. Should get the K of 12, so I rewrite it with that K plugged in. And the last part, now I have to find Y. And X is 4 and Z is 2. What's the label on this one?
Nothing.
There is no label, right? It's just X's and Y's. We don't know the labels for this. All right, I'm going to let you do the last one on your own. I'll do it up on the board. You'll need your Boyle's law again. Volume equals KT over P.
Is this guy like a real dude?
Boyle? Yeah.
He's the one who made the law.
There's a lot of people on the calls.
He made this one. He made. You said that to me. That literally made no sense. I was just like, okay.
I remember that. Okay. LGBT.
Yeah, I forgot you. That's actually really funny.
Okay, I'm just gonna revise that.
No, because yours doesn't make any sense. And you told me that right before the quiz, and I was like, I'm not gonna remember.
P over T.
Physical therapist. But why did I remember that it's Boyle?
Just ignore Boyle. He's the other guy. He's P over T.
Then what was the point?
The point was you
Physical
you
therapist.
eliminate the options. Gay second is a physical therapist.
But why would I remember that he was like a physical therapist?
Here is your homework for this section.
Now who's not making sense?
You.
No, later.
You're still not making any sense.